Hi, this is Mr. Mullaney. This is a recap of our lesson about the War of 1812. It will also go a little into the Missouri Compromise of 1820. This deck of slides was designed by my student teacher, Mr. Colin Boyle. Thank you, Mr. Boyle. I may go a little fast on the War of 1812 just because I really like the Missouri Compromise of 1820 for its the fact that it's interesting and vital. It's very, very important to American history. So we're going to make sure we cover that in depth. All right, so breakout of war. What happens is Britain had been impressing U.S. sailors. And when we say impressment, we don't mean like throwing on like a magic show or something. We mean capturing them off their ships and forcing them to work in the British Navy. Eventually, the Madison administration grows tired of this and urges Congress to declare war, and you have your War of 1812. As John Green says, it's a really terrible, uncreative name for a war. All right, whatever. So there's tough fighting. There are some victories for the United States in the upper Northwest. They don't really slow down the British. You have naval battles, much more naval battle in War of 1812 than the Revolutionary War. The burning of D.C. So the British do arrive in Washington, D.C. They burn it. They burn the White House, although the structure still remains intact. In fact, if you go to the White House today and if you're on the outside on the north portico and you look up, you can actually see burn marks from when the British did that. Up high in the rafters in the north portico. Look at the north portico on a $20 bill sometime and you'll kind of see. You have to stand under the columns. Anyway, then they go on to Baltimore. There's a battle at Fort McHenry. At that battle, there's a lawyer there named Francis Scott Key who witnesses the battle. He's actually in a British prison at the time, I do believe, and he writes a poem called the Star-Spangled Banner, which years later becomes the United States national anthem. Now, Francis Scott Key actually argued against the First Amendment rights of people to argue against slavery, so he might not be the best choice for a person to write our national anthem. If it's up to me, America the Beautiful, but only performed by Ray Charles. Never have anybody else perform it. Just play the video of Ray Charles singing America the Beautiful. That's the national anthem. Why can't we just have that be the deal? Anyway, we keep going. The war ends. They meet in Belgium. Both sides come to an end. Borders are back to normal. Nothing really is resolved. However, the Battle of New Orleans. So after the Treaty of Ghent is concluded, the British and American troops, the American troops are led by Andrew Jackson. I wonder if he'll parlay that into anything else. They engage in battle because they have not received word that the war is over yet. The battle is a huge, quick success for the United States and a well-spread, this huge national pride because of this big victory over the mighty British, something that had really eluded the Americans throughout the course of the war. So after the war, you get Monroe winning the 1816 election. You have the Panic of 1819. The Monroe administration is going to be known as the era of good feelings. We'll talk about that more in the next unit. And then you get the Missouri Compromise. Okay, this I like. I like the Missouri Compromise in that it's like a multiple part compromise, almost like a trade in the NBA. For those of you who follow the National Basketball Association in its offseason, there are oftentimes 3 and 4 team trades with all these different rules about draft picks and what they're protected and salary cap. And I could follow that all day. The Missouri Compromise and then the Compromise of 1850 coming 30 years later are much like that in that there are many, many terms. All right, so Missouri down here, and I'm going to have another map in a minute, wants to be admitted as a slave state. However, that will throw off the balance. So what happened between slave and free states? So what they do is they say, okay, we're going to carve Maine. It had been part of Massachusetts, a non-contiguous part of Massachusetts. We're going to cut Maine off it, make it a free state. Why would they have a state like that? Hey, check out Michigan, or what will become Michigan. It's not contiguous, so it's not uncommon. Anyway, Maine becomes a free state. Missouri becomes a free state. But there's also this. The southern boundary of Missouri, 3630 latitude, is now the northern border of slavery with the exception of Missouri as far as the Louisiana Purchase is concerned. So in the Louisiana Purchase, the Arkansas Territory can have slavery. Louisiana can have slavery, although it already does. It's already a state. Arkansas Territory essentially is open to slavery. But the rest of the Louisiana Purchase is closed off from slavery. So this is kind of a win for the North, this deal. Okay, let's just look here. This here is from Mr. Martinez's blog. I have the link right down there. I love this map because it shows you the different pieces. Maine admitted as free state 1820. Missouri admitted as free state 1820. This territory now is made free. It has to be free under this compromise. However, in the Arkansas Territory, there can be slave states. And look at the balance. Notice there's a balance scale here with Missouri and Maine. So that is our recap of War of 1812 and a Missouri Compromise. Our curriculum kind of organizes it that way. I like them to be separate topics, but it is what it is. Thank you, Mr. Boyle, for making this deck of slides.